Is that everything?
Yes?
Alright, that'll be $50 billion.
Trump's tariff is a lose-lose situation for every country involved.
Last night, a friend from the Little Red Book told me, by the state of your country, it looks like we all need to start wearing Free America t-shirts. I laughed so hard that I cried a little bit. Because it definitely seems
小红书
Dodger how, my friends. I know there's much to do about the tariffs, but they're simply going to accelerate what's already been in progress for a long time. De-dollarization. This is simply creating more incentive for other countries to move away from US dollars. To a point, it doesn't matter who the United States president is. The billionaire donor class determines things, no matter which of our fake manufactured political identities is nominally in power. Don't get distracted by the reality TV. The financial class of the former West, largely which formed the US empire after World War II, are the ones now shooting themselves in the foot with a lot of these geopolitical moves. They're not going to be able to rebuild industry because it's going to take decades to do so. So just sit back and enjoy the show. The billionaire fight is not our fight. Our fight is local.
But I think the bigger loser will be the US. It's like a person wants to stop buying groceries because it's too expensive, so they decided to become a tree. US is not a self-sufficient country to begin with. Putting tariffs on imported goods will not magically make US self-sufficient. Also, pretending that trade deficits are tariffs just utterly insane. Someone asked ChatGPT how to convince people that tariffs are a good idea. ChatGPT gave them the trade deficit formula as part of the reasoning. They didn't even bother to read through what ChatGPT has said and just use trade deficit formula to calculate tariffs. You might as well just use Magic 8-Ball. Importing goods from other countries is really good for preserving your own natural resources. China has already seen that as a problem, so in recent years they have plans to move a lot of manufacturing industry outside of China to preserve our own natural resources. Being the factory of the world is a devastating hit on our environment, but it was a necessary step to have better economy. The tariffs will make US people's life incredibly difficult. Even the billionaires are hating the tariffs. The rest of the world, though, when there is a common enemy, everyone will unite. US might be the richest country in the world, but it's not richer than the rest of the world combined. If I'm Trump, I'm gonna fake my own death. This is just way too messy.
Okay, let me get this straight. You know how I hate doing that. Donald Trump just came up with what he calls kind reciprocal tariffs. He doesn't understand any of those words. I'm going to get the chalkboard and then I'm going to sort it out for you. Let's go. There's one word to describe Donald Trump. It is kind. Penguins. The man is putting tariffs on penguins.
What kind of sick tariffs? Penguins. You gotta be a...
Brace yourself. Kind. Reciprocal tariffs. Is he just making words up now? Like terminology? Is that what we're doing? First of all, CF47, that's my pet name for him, isn't placing reciprocal tariffs on anybody. A, he doesn't know what the word reciprocal means. B, he really hasn't even figured out what the tariffs are from those other countries on imported American goods to give a reciprocal tariff. So what has he done? He's added this word kind to make him seem like a giant teddy bear while he completely and utterly destroys all mathematical formula. We all know he banned grade 10 math in the United States of America. How the heck could he ever understand reciprocal anyway? Let's focus on Madagascar from that long list of 185 countries he's placed tariffs on. Why Madagascar? Because it was a really good cartoon and it brought me joy. Here we go. Donald Trump says Madagascar, wait for it, has put a 93%. A 93% average tariff against the United States of America. So what has Donald Trump decided? Well, he's going to be nice and he's only going to charge a kind reciprocal, again, made up words, of 47% on all goods coming from Madagascar going into the United States. He's just going to charge this. I'm going to explain what this means in a second because he's using terminology that nobody actually understands. He chooses to use ChatGPT. Do you think one of his interns do it or, First, let's talk about how Trump came up with the 93% tariff that he says the Madagascar government is placing on the United States. Now, pause. That's the first problem because a tariff isn't placed on a country. A tariff is placed on imports coming into the country. You want to know who pays the tariff? The companies in country. So companies in Madagascar should be paying a 93% tariff on all imported goods coming from the United States into Madagascar. Is that happening? Absolutely not. Let me show you his math. Are you ready for some fun math? First, he takes the trade deficit. He takes that number. What's that number? 79.8 million. That's the trade deficit. Now, I'm going to explain what a trade deficit is to you, and if you could pass it along to CF47, that would be fantastic. A trade deficit means that the United States is buying more from Madagascar than Madagascar is buying from the United States. Want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because the United States has a huge population, and they are one of the wealthiest, if not the wealthiest country in the world. The fact that there's a trade deficit, that they're buying more, makes perfect sense because you're winning the capitalist game. Nonetheless, move on. He then takes the imports from the United States, from US, going into Madagascar, 733.2 million. Okay? So you have that number and you have this number. And now we're going to do some fancy math that makes absolutely no sense and has absolutely nothing to do with trade deficits and trade war. You make a history teacher do math, you understand that it really gets in my 679.8 million divided by 733, what was it? 0.2 million. What's that number, Alex? Hint, it ends up being a percentage as if you did a really, really big test. The answer ends up being 93%. Is that the tariff that Madagascar is putting on imports? Absolutely not. It's some odd amalgamation and mathematical formula of a trade deficit that's going on between one of the biggest countries and smallest countries in the world. I wonder if CF47 knows how to do percentages. Or is that ChatGPT as well? So the CF47 has decided that's the tariff that Madagascar is putting on imports. That actually is not it. Right now, just so we know, customs in Madagascar is putting on approximately a 20% import tax, import duty. I know I said duty. And only on approximately 40% of imports. So not even on all imports. I'm assuming nobody actually wanted to look up the real numbers. Let me reiterate. A tariff is a tax placed on incoming goods imposed by the government, paid for by the importer, and eventually the consumer within that country. How can I get that definition embedded into CF47's head? Maybe I should tattoo it onto Elon Musk's, but no. So when CF47 and his made-up numbers end up creating another number that he will now tariff all of these countries across the board, that tariff is going to be paid for by American companies and eventually Americans. This reality has caused economists all over the United States to say this is going to be the single biggest tax hike in American history. From his insane mathematical ChatGPT formula, China, he is going to place a 34% tariff on China, 39% on the EU, 46% on Japan, and 52% onto India. Want to know who's going to pay for that? American citizens.
It's a funny situation now because many American importers are asking factories or shipping companies in China to pay for that 20% tariff. They're saying, oh, the tariffs is because of we can't control it, but we don't want to pay for that additional cost. We don't want to push it onto the consumer or our distributor. We want you to pay for it. We want China. We want you to pay for it. The factory is going to tell you to find another factory. We're not going to pay for it. Shipping companies are not going to pay for it.
So there's conflict between these two sides.
If they can't settle, then there's no business anymore.
So are Chinese companies and shipping companies, factories saying, sorry, we're going to do business elsewhere?
Chinese netizens everywhere, they're saying like, it's so hard to do business now with the US. We're just going to quit.
Go elsewhere.
Yeah. Cause, Chinese people, we are very hardworking and we like to be challenged and we are never like beaten down until we're like, it's just not worth it.
So it's just not worth
The trouble.
the trouble.
I should just send down calculators to the United States to help them out. Now, are tariffs going to bring in revenue? Yes, they are. Guys, tariffs are going to bring in money. So what is Trump going to do with all of this newfound wealth? I'm not going to talk about where he's getting it from. Is he going to give it to the deficit? No. Is he going to invest in social programs? No. Education? Heck no. Right? What is he going to use all of this money for? He is going to use it to fund, wait for it, one of the biggest tax savings for billionaires in the United States. Guess who's paying for this? Americans! You got the right answer, and because you got the right answer, you will suffer a major recession, possibly a depression, over the next 5 years. 47 has called this Liberation Day.
My friends, I have a funny but kind of sad story for you. So, last night, a friend from the Little Red Book told me, by the state of your country, it looks like we all need to start wearing Free America t-shirts. I laughed so hard that I cried a little bit. Because it definitely seems.
Now the funny part is, I'm starting to question what everybody's going to be liberated from. By the sounds of it, mostly it's their money, but that's not all, Johnny. You have China, Japan, and South Korea now united. You can't get those people in the same room to do anything. There are generations of hate between those countries. But you know what? This has caused them to unite and forge alliances. You have the EU, Canada, and Mexico now talking. You have Canada talking free trade with China. You have BRICS nations establishing their own possible currency to go up against the United Nations. So what is it Liberation Day from? I'm going to tell you what it's from. It's from the United States leadership. I even told you the worst part. To sum up, CF47 also put a blanket 10% tariff on 2 islands in Antarctica. The only inhabitants? Penguins. Are they communist penguins? Are they rebel penguins? Are they hiding in the ice? Are they happy feet? Because I swear, if I find out there's singing penguins up there and you put a tariff on them, I can't be held responsible for what I'm going to do, you soft piece of celery.
Donald Trump's tariffs do not represent all Americans. And on behalf of 40 million Americans that live in the great state of California, the tentpole of the U.S. economy, 14% of the U.S. GDP, the 5th largest economy in the world, the dominant manufacturing state in America, our state of mind is around supporting stable trading relationships around the globe. And that's why today I've directed my administration to look at new opportunities to expand trade and to remind our trading partners around the globe that California remains a stable partner.
So California is fighting back on the tariffs itself. California wants to trade with other countries independently. At this point, that's what at least Governor Newsom is pushing for. And this is gonna be a hard task, I would say. And I don't know, but that's California for you. And what do you guys think about this? Because I don't know, this feels like 2 countries at the same time. I don't know, but it feels like California is trying to become its own country. That's what I'm getting from this. What do you guys think?
If I'm gonna be canceled, let it be canceled for this. I can't stand nobody worse than them people in Michigan, the Muslim community in Michigan, that decided that they was gonna vote for Donald Trump. Not only were they going to oppose Kamala Harris, which was their right, but they were going to actively vote for Donald Trump. And now look at Michigan. Now look at these auto permits. Now look at your state. And it is going to be hit terribly. You all make horrible strategic decisions. And you bite your nose to spite your face because you have no wisdom. You have no guidance. And if you do have a connection to the divine, it is disrupted and you need to realign.
You know, it's not a crime to have bad credit. So it would be crazy if a bunch of people who don't want to live in the United States anymore, especially when this dipshit's about to be inaugurated again, what if you all just like took out the biggest personal loans you could or max out your credit cards to start a new life? If you're not going to live in the United States, it doesn't matter that they gave you a bad credit score. And also, the US is literally trillions of dollars in debt, so they really have no business judging your financial situation. You can take out loans and use your credit card to do things like buy a flight, start a business, pay for your visas, a residency, pay your rent, buy land, build a house. It depends on how much money you can qualify for. But honestly, fuck it. The rich in the US have been stealing from the poor for fucking ever, so you may as well steal from them and go build the life that was promised to you in the US somewhere way better than the US, which is actually anywhere.
What is sentiment like toward the United States, like in China right now? What is the news coverage like in terms of Donald Trump's newly announced tariff plan? Over here, the financial markets are crashing. Businesses are clearly very uneasy about this, but there's still a lot of people defending it. All of the Donald Trump supporters are in denial about the negative consequences. But I'm just curious what sentiment is like toward the United States right now over in China.